Imagine the worst physical injury of your life. A shattered bone, a crushed limb. What happens next? You call an ambulance. You are rushed to a hospital. Bright white fluorescent lights, sterile white sheets, beeping monitors. A team of highly trained doctors surrounds you. You are given powerful painkillers. You are put to sleep with precise chemical anesthesia. You wake up hours later safe. You are pumped full of modern antibiotics to fight off any trace of infection. Your survival is almost guaranteed. Now I want you to strip all of that away. Take away the modern hospital, take away the doctors, take away the flashing monitors, erase the painkillers, erase the antibiotics, erase civilization itself. You are deep inside a dark, humid, sweltering jungle. It is 31,000 years ago. You are just a child, and your lower leg is completely destroyed. Maybe it was crushed by a massive falling rock. Maybe it was mangled by a wild apex predator. Or maybe it is rotting from a terrifying, fast-spreading tropical infection. Whatever the cause, the brutal reality is clear. To survive, the leg must come off. In the modern, technologically advanced world, a limb amputation is a major, highly risky medical surgery. In the Stone Age, it sounds like an absolute, undeniable instant death sentence. No anesthesia, no sterile steel scalpels, no medicine. You would bleed out in minutes, or you would die of agonizing shock, or the invisible bacteria of the jungle would infect your blood and you would be dead in a week. That is what science always told us. For generations, we believed our ancient ancestors were primitive. We thought complex medicine was a purely modern invention. We thought advanced surgery only started when humans settled down and started farming maybe 10,000 years ago. We thought ancient hunter-gatherers were simple people, only capable of making crude wooden clubs and basic stone spears. But what researchers recently found changes everything. It completely shatters our entire timeline of human history. Deep inside a remote limestone cave in the jungles of Borneo, archaeologists made a terrifying and miraculous discovery. They uncovered a skeleton, a young adult hunter-gatherer. But as they brushed away the ancient dirt, they realized something massive was missing. The lower left leg was gone. It was not bitten off by a hungry animal. It was not crushed in a random, chaotic accident. It was cut, cleanly, precisely, deliberately. And here is the single most mind-blowing part of the entire discovery. The bone showed clear, undeniable signs of advanced healing. This was not a botched, desperate hack job that ended in massive blood loss and death. This person survived. They lived for another 6 to 9 years without a left foot, in one of the most rugged, dangerous, unforgiving rainforests on planet Earth. How did primitive humans pull off a highly complex medical procedure 31,000 years ago? Let us deep dive into the brutal physical reality of this ancient surgery. The setting is the island of Borneo, a massive, wild island in Southeast Asia. Today it is covered in dense, sweltering rainforests and jagged limestone cliffs. 31,000 years ago it was much the same, hot, wet, teeming with vibrant life and teeming with invisible killers, bacteria, fungi, flesh-eating parasites. In a tropical jungle environment, a simple scratch can quickly become fatally infected. A deep, gaping wound is a massive biological risk. Now imagine intentionally chopping off an entire limb in the middle of that jungle. The physical environment was working entirely against them. So how did they actually do it? Let us break down the mechanics of a human amputation. You need to cut through tough outer skin. You need to slice through thick, dense muscle tissue. You need to sever major blood vessels. And finally, you have to saw right through solid bone. You cannot just blindly hack at a leg like a piece of dead firewood. If you do that, the patient immediately dies of trauma and shock, or they bleed to death before you finish the job. To perform a successful amputation, you need a highly effective blade, not just any rock. A dedicated surgical instrument. 31,000 years ago, there was no steel, there was no iron. The ancient surgeon had to use stone. Imagine the intense preparation. Holding a piece of chert or flint, striking it precisely against another harder rock, flacking off razor-thin pieces to create a perfect edge. A stone scalpel. These ancient stone tools can actually be significantly sharper than modern steel scalpels. They can slice through cellular tissue with terrifying ease, but they are also extremely brittle. They break easily. The surgeon had to work with flawless precision. One wrong move, and the stone splinters directly into the open wound. Now, picture the operation. The patient is a young child. They are laying flat on the hard dirt floor of a dark cave. There is no modern chemical anesthesia to knock them out. They are awake. They feel everything. The surgeon makes the first deep cut, slicing through the skin and the thick calf muscle of the lower left leg. Blood immediately pours out. The human body has major high-pressure arteries in the legs. If you cut the tibial artery, the heart rapidly pumps the body's entire blood supply out in a matter of minutes. The surgeon had to know exactly where these hidden blood vessels were located. They had to work fast. Then comes the hardest part, the bone, the tibia and the fibula. Cutting through thick bone with stone tools is an incredibly difficult physical task. It requires immense physical force, but it also requires delicate, steady control. The skeleton found in the cave tells a vivid, undeniable story. The cut on the ancient bone is perfectly clean. It is cleanly slanted. It shows absolutely no signs of crushing or splintering. This means the surgeon knew exactly what they were doing. They did not panic. They performed a masterclass in extreme physical surgery. This is where the story entirely shifts. It moves from a brutal physical event into a profound story of brilliant scientific knowledge. Getting the leg off is only half the battle. Surviving the next 24 hours is the real test. And surviving the next month, that requires hidden knowledge we never thought ancient humans possessed. How did a child survive an amputation in a bacteria-filled jungle? The answer lies in the hidden biological mechanisms of ancient medicine. First, let us talk about the catastrophic bleeding. You cut an artery, you die. That is a strict biological fact. The ancient surgeon had to stop the rapid blood loss instantly. How did they achieve this? They likely used a highly effective tourniquet, wrapping strong vines or tough animal sinew tightly around the upper thigh, cutting off the blood flow to the lower leg completely before making the cut. But once the leg is detached, you have to permanently seal the wound. Did they use fire to cauterize the flesh? The bone shows absolutely no signs of heat damage. This means they likely used intense physical pressure and natural bandages to force the blood to clot naturally. But the biggest enemy was not blood loss. It was massive infection. We are talking about a dense tropical rainforest. An open wound of that size is a magnet for deadly bacteria. In modern times, we fight this with synthetic antibiotics. We thought antibiotics were discovered in the modern era. We were wrong. The ancient people of Borneo did not have manufactured pills, but they had the jungle. The rainforest is a massive living pharmacy. For tens of thousands of years, these hunter-gatherers relentlessly experimented with plants. They mapped the complex chemical properties of the forest. They discovered exactly which roots reduced dangerous fevers, which leaves stopped agonizing pain, and which mosses killed invading bacteria. To keep this injured child alive, the community must have used a sophisticated blend of botanical medicine. They likely applied powerful natural antiseptics directly to the stump. Certain sticky tree resins, specific crushed medicinal leaves, these natural chemicals aggressively stopped the bacteria from multiplying. They kept the massive wound clean while the raw skin slowly grew over the exposed bone. And what about the immense pain? A limb amputation causes unimaginable trauma to the nervous system. The brain can simply shut down the body from the sheer agony. To prevent death from shock, the surgeon likely administered potent natural anesthetics, rare jungle plants that numbed the mind, bitter roots that slowed the racing heart rate and calmed the patient. This was not primitive guesswork. This was a highly advanced medical system. It required a masterful understanding of human anatomy. The surgeon knew exactly where the complex veins were rooted. They knew exactly how the living skin needed to be folded to heal properly. The skeleton itself is the ultimate proof. The bone healed perfectly. The sharp edges safely rounded off over time. This kind of advanced bone healing does not happen by accident. It requires weeks of dedicated postoperative care. The wound had to be cleaned daily. The dressings had to be constantly changed. The patient had to be hand-fed while their immune system fiercely fought the extreme trauma. They completely understood the hidden biological mechanisms of human survival. But the miraculous survival of this ancient child reveals something even more profound than early medical science. It reveals the true, deeply hidden nature of humanity itself. Let us look at the massive ripple effect of this single, ancient surgery. The operation was a complete biological success. The terrifying wound healed, but the everyday reality was undeniably harsh. This person was missing their entire left foot and lower leg. They lived in an environment where daily survival meant constantly moving, climbing incredibly steep, jagged karst cliffs, foraging in thick, unforgiving brush, hunting fast wild animals. A person with only one functional leg could not do these physical things. They were a massive physical burden on the group. In a harsh, prehistoric world, the brutal logic of wild nature says you must leave the weak behind. That is the animal way. If you cannot walk, you die. But that is not what happened in Borneo. This disabled individual lived for another 6 to 9 long years. They safely grew from a vulnerable child into a young adult. This biological fact means their nomadic community did not abandon them. Their family did not leave them to starve in the dirt. Instead, they actively carried them. They willingly shared their hard-earned food. They fiercely protected them from roaming predators. They valued this person's life enough to invest enormous daily time and critical energy into their ongoing care. This single skeleton completely rewrites our foundational understanding of early human societies. We are strictly taught that the Stone Age was a dark time of pure, ruthless survival of the fittest. We naturally imagine our ancient ancestors as violent, selfish, and primitive brutes. But the silent bones in the Liang Tibo cave tell a vastly different story. They tell a timeless story of deep, profound human empathy, of undeniable love, of a tight-knit community that boldly says, "You are one of us and we will do whatever it takes to keep you alive." This is the ultimate, lasting legacy of the 31,000-year-old amputation. It definitively proves that advanced medicine was not born out of modern technology. Medicine was born directly out of human compassion. The deep psychological desire to stop the suffering of another human being is literally older than human civilization itself. It existed long before massive cities, before the invention of farming, before the creation of written language. Today, we confidently walk into giant, glowing hospitals. We heavily rely on complex synthetic drugs. We often feel completely separated from our distant ancient past. But the next time you visit a doctor, or take a simple pain pill, or stay up late to help a sick friend, stop and remember that dark cave in Borneo. Remember the razor-sharp stone blade. Remember the wounded child who miraculously survived the impossible. Modern technology has completely changed. The shiny tools are vastly different, but the deep human drive to care for one another, that has always been exactly the same. It is the very foundation of who we are. It is the exact thing that makes us human.